Pod Sound School presents Content Jefe, the podcast that helps online business owners make better content and more money. Let's Jefe up. Hello, amigo. Welcome to another Content Jefe episode. Better content, more money, brought to you by the Pod Sound School. I'm Veronica, and here with our wrinkly shirt.
Is La Costilla. Studio Steve.
Peleó con la plancha.
I had a fight with the iron, which is an idiomatic expression in Spanish.
Peleó con la plancha.
Idiomatic expressions really don't do the best job of translating. I've gotten in trouble with that before. Trying to translate my idiomatic expressions into Spanish.
No.
This
in
podcast.
Front of my grandma. Like in front of my grandma.
I know. I've done some horrible things in front of your grandma.
You like to flirt with my grandma.
Well, your grandma gets me going. I don't know what it is. All right.
Grandma gets me going.
She
has a butterfly tattoo in her ankle.
She does. And in her day, you know, if our ages were matched up,
she was a hottie.
I think we would have had maybe gone on a date or something, you know? So
she's edgy.
This podcast is for online business owners or for anyone who might be content creation curious. We talk about all sorts of tips and tricks and things that you could do to level up your online business.
Mm-hmm.
And a really popular, useful type of online business is coaching.
Yeah.
Or being an online coach. I love this topic of being an online coach, but there's a lot of innate struggles that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
Ourselves, we were sort of kind of forced into coaching a little more than maybe we thought we would be as our business started.
Mm-hmm.
And we still are in that role quite often. And that is part of our role. We're instructors in online courses, but a lot of what we do, even in this podcast and a lot of our free content, is coaching. And we work with clients and students all of the time.
Yeah.
It's not like we set out to be coaches, but we were sort of pushed into that role nonetheless. And I think even if your online business isn't directly a coaching business, I think that all of us, to a certain degree, when we're creating content online, we sort of get pushed into that role.
Yeah, there's a lot of coaches out there. And if you're thinking about getting into coaching to teach your thing, then it can be a very lucrative business.
Yes.
And we are going to talk about in this episode things that are related to what we do.
Yes.
Things that are related to just being called a coach and teach other people in the online space.
Yes. And the struggles that you might come up against and our own tips and tricks and thoughts about how you can combat those struggles and how you can really kill it as a coach.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to talk about, so we better get started.
Yeah. First of all, what I want to say is that I am very grateful that we are in this day and age where we can find coaches that can teach us things that we were not taught in school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I graduated with my major in industrial engineering in Colombia. Then I came here to this country and I had to learn English. So I went to school for that. Then I applied for law school. I got into law school and I was just hanging out there with really smart people, like brilliant minds. But I graduated with, you get this sense of where's the actionable thing? Like, how do I make money with this? Like, how do I have this degree? Like, how this degree is going to translate into money or into practical skills that I can use to make money right now because I have student loans. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, exactly the same.
So for you coaches out there, like, thank you. Thank you for teaching the practical skills, for teaching people how to put together an online course, for teaching people marketing, for teaching people business, for teaching people sales, for teaching people how to take care of their health, for teaching people how they can work out at home. I mean, to all of you, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to those of you thinking about getting into it, you absolutely must. We need you. The world needs more coaches.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the most amazing thing about this whole new creator economy and the Web3 that's coming and how we're all going to own our own little real estate online. It's so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So
now let's talk about this thing that comes with coaching, and is like, how especially if you're a coach that are starting to put the word out there, you want to start getting your first few clients.
You're talking about notoriety, and you're talking about, do you have to do the thing?
Or do you have to be the thing you teach?
Do you have to be the thing you teach? I love this. I think that the first thing that I think of is like a football or a soccer coach, a sports coach. Do they have to be athletes themselves? Do they ever have to have even played the game? And I think people would argue with you, some of the best basketball, football coaches there are really could not even compete at all on the field or on the court. And so if you have the mind of having an idea of how you could do something really well, even if you've never done that thing before, there's no reason you couldn't be a great coach for that.
Yeah. And I think even if you are not experiencing the thing, even if you're not the thing, then if you can prove that you can bring the results for other people, if there's something that you can show for that, because I think about, coaches that they are not good at the physical part of it, like for the example that you were sharing, but they're very good at tactic. They're very good at strategy.
Yeah.
And that has proved to work in the past.
Yeah. And then after
for teams and for other people.
Yeah.
So they have that to show.
Yeah. And they had to pay their dues along the way to build that authority. So the idea, and I think the question that we're answering right at this first point of the episode is, how do you start building authority, and how much authority you need before you can actually call yourself a coach? And this can be difficult for a number of reasons. Another analogy I like, though, is like the director actor. A lot of directors couldn't act to save their lives, but they're like the best directors, right? So
because they have the vision.
They have the vision, they have the know-how. But even if you have the vision, like in my case, as an audio engineer and as somebody who worked in the film industry before we started any of this, I've produced hundreds of albums for people. Many of them have been on the radio. Some of them won some local awards, got published in magazines. Albums that I produced, I could probably barely tell you the name of any of those albums anymore. And I certainly wouldn't be able to go dig those out of a pile somewhere and find those bands or musicians or hip hop artists that don't even exist anymore. But nonetheless, my story is part of what I can bring and part of what I could come from. Let's say you were a therapist who's worked with clients for a long time, and now you want to get away with working with clients and you want to actually just provide your therapy coaching. So if you're entering into the online space as a coach, how can you build authority with the experience, the insights that you have when you don't have any following? You don't have, maybe you have 200 followers, maybe you have 15 followers and they're your family. So what are ways that we can get started as a coach so that we can overcome that first struggle, which is the proof? And here's another idiomatic expression that does not work in Spanish. The proof is in the pudding.
What?
The proof? It's in the pudding.
Okay.
What the hell does that even mean?
Well, I think that you're going to hear a lot of business coaches. Hello, business coaches.
Hi.
Telling you or posting about that one of the things that you can do is to have those first few clients for pro bono for free. And that's something that we did. We got the courage to it was really
that's
hard for us.
That's something you did.
Yeah, it was something that I did. We reached out to our first client and we produced her podcast, and the insights that we got from that project were very valuable for us to put together our online course.
And also for us to put together a package and sort of a framework for how we would work with clients that came after her.
With that being said, the more that we have gone into our business, I think that you should try different things. You should try enroll clients for free if you have that inclination, but you should also try to charge people from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like, our story doesn't have to be your story.
And every formula that all of your coaches, including us, would teach you, you should challenge those. How can you do it different? Rules and formulas are made to be broken. You can do things differently, and you'd be surprised. There are people who have money. They're just dying to be coached.
Yeah. And I feel like the faster you get that out of the way, because we we bump into a problem or into a block. And it was like, okay, how much we charge for our services. And it's just like, if you have this very conflicting relationship with money and with getting paid with for what you do, it's very good from the get-go, from that very first client, to start charging, even if it's a small amount.
Yeah.
Because that will build that confidence that you can just keep charging and keep bumping your prices until you come to that sweet spot that will pay the bills.
Yeah. And that also is another huge struggle of being a coach, is how much to charge, when to charge, all of that. And so we can kind of shift to that, but let's finish this first topic of how to gain notoriety. And I would say one of the best ways that you could do that as a coach, more than any other type of online business owner, would be to start a podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's different types of podcasts, the different formats of podcasts. It's open to your own creativity as well, but you could really lump them into the format, which is what we're doing. This would be considered a co-host podcast. We're always in the same location. We're together. I can touch you. Or there's a remote co-hosted podcast, same host, same co-host, but maybe we do it remotely, basically the same thing. Or there's interview style podcasts, which as a coach would be killer, be a great idea, because it's amazing. You would be surprised how quickly you could gain notoriety online with an interview based podcast. You have a great podcast cover, a good sounding intro that you put in there. You invest in some decent equipment. It's not going to cost you that much. You could take one of our podcasting courses and you could produce a professional podcast in no time.
Also, it's a longer format of media that people can really go and listen to your podcast and learn more about you, learn more about what you do, learn more about whether they need your services or not. I think that's one of the main things, the main reasons why I've gotten into coaching with other people and into like buying books and buying things, is because of how much podcast I listen to.
Yeah.
And there are certain podcasts that I follow no matter what. I have to listen.
And so you could do all sorts of things. You could tell your story. You could do a solo podcast and it would still work. Yeah. But the networking podcast was the first one I was talking about, which is where you could actually try to get people in a similar industry of the one you'll be coaching in to come and interview them. Not only are you going to be able to pick their brain and actually add intellectual assets to your own enterprise, to your own coaching enterprise, but you'll also be able to rub shoulders with them and you'll have that power of association. This is why there's so many blog posts and so many coaches, ourselves included, that are just insane about podcasts for business owners and especially coaches. So if you don't have a podcast already, you need to have one. It's relatively easy to maintain, and it's relatively easy when you compare it to any other type of content to get started producing your own podcast.
Yeah, and another thing, it's something that podcasting has that other content that you may post on social media doesn't have, and that's the fact that is portable, that your audience can listen to a podcast while they drive, while they're running errands, while they're working on their yard or cleaning the house. And that's something that sometimes I find that, I wish this person would have a podcast. Like I find them on Instagram and they go on Instagram Live and they have videos on their Instagram, but I'm not always glued to my phone watching Instagram. I have a very busy schedule and I like to listen to podcasts while I do different things, while I multitask. So for those people who have busy schedules and they like to multitask and they're podcast listeners, that is just a very, very good piece of content to have for your marketing.
Yes. And so let's finish this first point off with how to build notoriety as a coach, a brand new coach online. Podcasting, huge. That's my biggest recommendation. But then also think of at least one other platform.
Yes.
Pick one other platform in addition to that. And if podcasting is something you're really not interested in, what you need to do is develop a content strategy so that you can actually develop an online presence where you post content about your story, come up with content pillars. Listen to this podcast. We're constantly talking about content pillars, content strategy, ideas. Just go through our episodes and you'll be good to go in no time.
Hey, I'm interrupting the episode for a little announcement. You know you have to create content to attract more prospects online, but the whole thing seems daunting and too much to figure it out on your own. Which social media platform should I choose? Should I start making videos for IG Reels, TikTok, or YouTube? What skills do I need to learn? What equipment do I need? Or maybe you're considering starting a podcast for your business. And if any of that's the case, we want to invite you to sign up for the waitlist for Smart and Simple Podcasting. It's our first coaching program where we, the Pod Sound School, will be teaching you how to create and launch a professional podcast from scratch. Content marketing, so your content is a lead generation machine for your business, and different ways to maximize every time you record so you can create micro pieces of content that will go on different social media platforms. We'll be holding your hand through the whole process, meeting weekly with you, making sure that you're not getting left behind. We'll be teaching students and clients about podcast and video production and marketing for 4 years. Our approach to teaching is straightforward, innovative, and fun. So hurry up and go to podcastingsmart.com/waitlist to sign up, or find the link in the description of this episode. Stop working so hard on your content. Make your content work for you. Now back to the episode.
Now we can move on to another wonderful point about the struggles of coaching.
How to handle when you're wrong and harsh criticism.
Harsh criticism and when you're wrong as a coach.
Mhm.
This has happened to me a few times. And again, I'm an audio engineer. And you know who some of the most harsh critics are? Other audio engineers. I don't know if it's because we're all failed musicians with bruised egos, or what it is, but if you're slightly wrong about some tech spec, they will rip you a new one. There's another idiomatic expression.
Rip you a new one.
And that's actually a pretty nasty one I shouldn't say on our podcast. But they will really let you know about that. And that's been difficult, but not so much, because for me personally, how I dealt with
it's just
that
business as usual.
Yeah, it's
If
just
you're putting
business as
yourself out
usual.
there, we already had an episode that we talked about those things.
Mhm,
The trolls and all that.
mhm.
But it's just like part of you selling your services online. You're going to get happy clients, not so happy clients, happy people supporting you and saying that you changed their lives, and other people telling you that you have ruined their lives, and
Or that you're a sham,
and
or
that
you're
they're
a fraud.
getting a
or-
divorce because of you.
Yeah. Oh, oh. Yeah. So really with that, it's just evaluating the situation, looking at whether the criticism is worth you actually ingesting and spending time on to formulate a good response. Or in my case, a lot of times the things that the negative criticism was about was things I should have been aware of. And so then I was able to go educate myself further on that thing so I could be an even better coach.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate the times that it happened to me.
The negative criticism.
Yeah. Because it was, for me, it was when you come into the world of podcasting from audio engineering and doing film, capturing audio for film and music, there's a lot of differences in mic technique and different things that I was made very aware of early on by some very disgruntled audio engineers. So there's that. Let's talk about a couple other points, because I think we've really covered most of it.
Open yourself up to possibilities.
Yes. And what do you mean by that?
I think what we mean by that is to what I was saying, that you don't always have to follow what your mentors and what your coaches tell you to do as
The law.
the law of the land. Just do what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And open yourself up to the possibility that maybe you will be, that if somebody took 6 months, a year to make $100,000 or $200,000, that maybe that won't be the case for you, that you're going to make your first million. Like,
Yeah.
why not? Just open yourself up to possibilities. Like, put yourself in the future.
Yes.
Don't be defined by what people have experienced or by what people are teaching you. We're here as coaches. We're here to show you our systems, to show you what has worked for us, and to make you just like giving you pieces and giving you frameworks and things that you can apply. But bottom line, you're the one choosing what is best for you, what's best for your business, and open yourself up to possibilities that, crazy things are coming your way.
Yeah. And with that, I'll leave off the episode with the last point that we wanted to make, which is don't be defined by your past, be defined by your future. And this is maybe another idiomatic expression or another expression that you hear people say, which is fake it till you make it. And I actually don't really like that expression because when you're faking it, the word fake, I think,
it would
is
be
what I
like
don't
more
like.
like be until you make it.
Yeah, or just pretend, but
or be.
yeah. And I just love this idea of being defined by your future. And so if you could take a moment and imagine and really be wild with the imagination, right? And who is your future self at 20 years, 30 years from now? What have you achieved with your business, with your coaching business? Who have you coached? What are you known as? What status do you have for yourself? And then act and be and feel like that person. Not this person of the past that's filled with insecurities and low self-esteem issues and all that stuff, but from the person in the future, and breathe it in and take it in and feel how that feels to act like that, and then act like that, be that. And that is, there's all this, I guess you could say, emerging new age science behind how, what we affirm is what we attract, and, the manifestation and all of that stuff. But there is something sincere and real to that, because if you are acting like that future perfect version of yourself, then that's how people will perceive you. And those are the kind of clients that you will attract. And that's how you're going to be able to raise your prices. And that's how you're going to be able to charge what you're worth, and even more than what you're worth.
Yeah. Another thing, and this is the last thing
that
I wanted to talk about, is integrity.
Oh, yeah. We missed the integrity point.
That's very important. I think that is just the key of everything that we do as coaches, and the key for you to combat the imposter syndrome. And it's just having integrity. If you have integrity, you know what results you can achieve for your clients, and you know that you will do anything within your power to bring all those results that you promised to your clients. And that's one of the things that we had very, very clear since the beginning of the Pod Sound School, is that because we have the talents and we have the experience and we have the integrity and the passion for what we do, we knew that if we would sign up a client, that we would go above and beyond. And that's one of the main reasons why we don't work with clients one-on-one anymore. We decided not to. And it's because we would go so above and beyond that we would over deliver. We would deliver more than what we promised when we sign up our client.
We would also be more willing to, add things on or provide more services or get ourselves into spending more time. Also, it wasn't necessarily scalable in a way that it would be hard not only for us to raise our prices, but for our clients to raise their budget. And so the whole business model would have to change. We'd either have to start working with different clients, or we could move to a different business model, which is what we're currently doing. So, but that's amazing. And when Veronica says, open yourself up to possibilities, the possibility could be how you coach, who you coach, group coaching, coaching sessions, online courses. There's a million imaginable ways that you could actually be a coach. It doesn't have to be one-on-one clients. You don't have to have that type of a service, but it could also be one-on-one clients as well. And with that, we'll wrap up the episode by wishing you luck and asking for your feedback. Are you new to your coaching business? Let us know more about you. We're dying to get to know you more. We know based off of our analytics that we've got a lot of listeners, a lot of new listeners every week. But we know that you're multitasking. We know that you're doing other things while you're consuming this fresh and dope content, and that it's actually asking a lot for you to come say hi and come tell us about yourself. But please, we're dying. It makes our life to know more about you. And fine. But come say hi. Veronica's on Instagram at Pod Sound School. I'm on Twitter at Pod Sound School. As a reminder, this is both an audio and a video podcast. The video is on YouTube and Spotify, and the audio anywhere you listen to podcasts. Leave a review, follow, subscribe, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And we will catch you on the next episode.
Bye, lovely.